I'm going to ask you to think about something. All of those people, including you all, including me, earlier this morning, a couple of hours before, we were all preparing and planning to come and attend this event. Some of you may be getting your hair done. Some of you checking the phones to see the traffic situation. Some of you may be tracking the Yango you have booked. Some rushing out of the door thinking and worried, oh, I'm already late because I was supposed to be here early as I'm part of the organizing team. Some of you worried whether or not I'll get a good seat in the front rows, or what if I miss the beginning part of the event. All of that worry and all of that preparation because of that one uncertainty of whether I will be able to make it in time for this event or not. But if I asked you, did any one of you think, how am I going to keep my breathing normal? Or did any one of you think that how am I going to keep my heart beating? Or did any one of you plan, how am I going to keep myself alive in order to come to attend this event? No, of course not. Because our minds don't work that way. Our minds plan for the uncertain events and not for the ones that it assumes to be certain. And it makes perfect sense because it seems like you all are great planners as you are seated here right now and attending this talk. But just like this, we prepare for job interviews not knowing whether we're going to get the job or not. We prepare these grand weddings for months not knowing if the marriage is going to work or not. We rehearse these difficult conversations in our heads, not knowing what the outcome of an argument is going to be. It is us who make backup plans of backup plans. Because our minds are like these magnificent machines that are constantly scanning the horizon to pick up any kind of potential threat so that it can help us to prepare and to plan for the unknown and the uncertain terrain which is ahead of us. According to the predictive brain theory, our brains are like predictive machines who are constantly trying to predict the future. It's like they're continuously running in between the gap of what is and what could be. And in between this gap is where hope blooms, anticipation arrives, and there is excitement. Our minds spend an extraordinary amount of time thinking and planning of the future events and not too much about the certain ones. Think about it. When was the last time that you made a contingency plan for something that is certain? Now the question is, what is certain in our life? There are two undeniable truths in our lives. Number one, according to the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus, he has a famous saying that the certain thing in our life is that life is in constant flux. Everything is continuously changing. You may have heard of his famous saying that no man ever steps into the same river twice, which implies that neither the man remains the same, nor does the river, because everything is continuously in flux. Change is the only reliable companion you're going to have in your life. The second undeniable truth in our life, and the absolute certain, is death. The most certain appointment we all have on our life's calendar. But on a normal day, we don't even think about these certainties. Why? Maybe because they're too big, they're too complicated, or maybe because they're too certain. Because our brains are wired to worry about the unknown, the unseen, and the uncertain, and to feel safe in what is guaranteed. And it fascinates me that whether it's our professional life or our personal life, we are focused on our future so much that we neglect our present time. Even with the infinite wisdom, our brain tends to ignore them. I was wired like this too. My brain was wired like this too. Until trauma came and altered it. In December 2019, on a very joyful day, the atmosphere in my house was so jubilant. There was hustle, bustle, there were guests, food, music, decor. It was a very joyful day. And all of a sudden, my mother passed away without any warning. My source of unconditional love, my best friend, my safe person, was gone in a blink of an eye. Years passed by. I became a mental health advocate. I became an author. I became a public speaker. Not because I studied the textbooks of psychology or I got a degree in it. No. I earned these titles because life gave me a masterclass in what happens when the most certain thing arrives at the most uncertain time. When trauma strikes your brain, something remarkable yet terrifying happens to it. Those meticulously constructed structures that generally help us to navigate in times of uncertainty, they tend to break down because of that initial shock. And the brain goes into survival mode. The months that followed after my mother's death, I began to think about the things that I would normally not even think of. The certain things. I became obsessed about thinking of these certain things. It was like I began to have existential fear. I got worried about my loved ones more than ever. I got worried about my own self, that how much time do I have left? I could not even predict my emotions from 1 hour to the next. Forget about predicting about the future. Because right now my mind was in this hyper-vigilant mode where it was taking these certainties no more as something safe, but as a threat. And when that happened, I began to lose hope. That anticipation became anxiety, and all that excitement was now fear. It sounds like a very dark and endless loop, but it's not. Because here is the good news. Thanks to the brain's neuroplasticity, it is the ability of our brain to adapt, to rewire, and to transform. It was once believed that this could be only possible in the early stages of the development of the human body and the human brain. But modern neuroscience proves that this is possible throughout our life. It can happen maybe when you go through a new experience, when you learn a new skill, and even after the brain goes through a certain trauma or injury. And this can happen throughout our lives. When trauma came to me, I also realized this thing, that this is not the end. In fact, this was just the beginning of that transformation. And I began to do so by my conscious healing efforts and through mindfulness. Let me share with you how. I began this journey by, first of all, anchoring these certainties. Since I was thinking about these certainties so much, I came to a realization. I thought to myself, so since I know that everything is changing and everything is going to change, then so is my grief. I would not think like this. I would not feel like this forever. I may have good days. I may have bad days. Both were going to be okay, and both were going to be temporary. My grief would change its shape. It would change its form. And I accepted that everything is going to come to an end. And that part of it is something I cannot control. Through my conscious efforts, my daily reminders, and my daily practices, I was able to rewire my brain and bring it back to a place where it was no more taking these certainties as a threat anymore. It's So my certainties became my compass. My compass was not pointing me to a place where everything was perfect and everything would be resolved or uncertainties would stop. No, but what it was doing was, it was helping me to navigate through this time of uncertainty. It was bringing my hope back again by regulating my emotions, by regulating my feelings. And writing was one of those things that really, really helped me. And through this transformative journey, I learned a few lessons. I learned not that you stop planning or you stop preparing, but you stop preparing and you stop planning at the cost of your present. This present time is the only time that you actually have, which is guaranteed. Life does not come with a forward button. It does not come with a rewind button. That's not what you can do. What you can do is right now, make this present time truly yours. And this is my invitation to all of you today, that to look at these certainties from a new way. That instead of making all of those elaborate contingency plans for the long-term future, instead make intentions for your present time right now. Ask yourself, but since I know that everything is changing and everything is going to change, how am I changing? How am I growing? How am I evolving? How am I progressing? How am I coming back from something that I have lost, something that I have grieved? How am I doing that? It is about what new experience you can get. What is that new skill you can learn? How are you going to keep up with the change? And since you know that your time is limited, how are you spending that time? Do it with intentions. Because the reality is, uncertainties in life, they're not going to stop. And neither can you change, reschedule, or negotiate with mortality. It's going to come. But what you can do is you can choose how you meet them, how you prepare yourself, how you know that I am going to be ready for this change. How can I keep myself moving in this flux? And how am I going to spend this finite time with intentions? And this applies to everything that you do in your life on a daily basis. It is about how you love. It's about how you connect. It's about what you create. It's about what you do when you heal. It's about showing up for others. It is about showing up for yourself with the right intentions and filling up the space between life and death by making these certainties as your compass so that it can help you to navigate through uncertainty. Thank you so much.